Hey guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Evan's going to be teaching you a duet that we co-wrote. Now this duet was inspired by the vamps heard at the end of classic rock tunes. Now vamp is simply a short chord progression that repeats over and over, but usually melodic ideas are layered on top of it. Probably the most famous example is Layla. If you think of the end of that tune, when it switches to that beautiful piano part, when you're listening to that, you hear it progress over and over, but as it progresses, you hear these beautiful melodic ideas layered on top of it. We wanted to copy that approach with this tune. When you heard the performance, you heard that the rhythm ukulele introduces the chord progression on its own, and then the lead ukulele comes in with the melody, and then the melody turns into a solo, but it's a very different solo from the typical solo. Your typical solo happens in the middle of a tune, and it's usually lick-based or, for lack of better words, shred-based. This solo doesn't sound at all like that. This solo sounds like it wants to embellish the harmony more so than to show off and go, all those kind of shreddy licks. And I think that's what makes this piece sound a little bit more pretty than your typical classic rock tune, right? When you think classic rock, you think something like AC/DC, and this one is more so the ending of Layla. We wanted it to be really, really pretty sounding. So I think this is going to be a really fun one for y'all to learn, especially considering that you have two options for learning it. You can learn the rhythm part or the lead part, or if you're feeling Olympic, you can learn both parts. So let's actually take a step back. Let's talk a little bit about this lesson. So we're going to be splitting this lesson into two parts. So this video is our part one lesson. And in the part one lesson, Evan's going to be teaching you the entire rhythm part plus the melody part that the lead ukulele plays. In the part two lesson, he's going to be teaching the solo. So if you want to watch that lesson, you can do so by clicking this link right here, or going to the site, rockclass101.com, doing a search for the song's name. But also on that page are going to be the tabs that you can print off to follow along with, as well as the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer. Now this is a great feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tabs scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you want. Just a great asset in learning this piece that much easier. Last but not least, we are going to have backing tracks. So it doesn't matter if you learn the rhythm or the lead part, we'll have a backing track for both, and you'll be able to play along at home. And I'll go ahead and upload a 100% speed, a 75% speed, and if you can feel the beat, I'll upload a 50% as well. So one thing we want to touch on real quick before I hand it off to Evan is that this tune does require low G ukulele, so you got to grab the low G for both parts, the rhythm and the lead. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and hand it off to Evan, and I'll catch you at the end of the video.
Hey everyone, I'm Evan, and welcome to the part one lesson for the classic rock ukulele duet. Let's go straight into the rhythm part, but if you want to jump ahead and learn the melody part that the lead ukulele plays, feel free to click on the timestamp provided on screen. Going straight into the rhythm part, the song is in 6/8 time, meaning 6 quavers in a bar. And it uses 3 chords for the whole song: A, G major, and D major in a 4-bar progression. Let's play through these chords once through: A major, G major, and D major. And with that, let's start with measure 4, since the first 3 measures are the same as what we just played through. This is how measure 4 sounds like. Alright, so we start with a down strum on the A chord on beat 1. Then your ring finger goes to the 2nd fret of the C string. Do another down strum. Index finger back to the 1st fret on the C string, another down strum. And finally pinky to the 4th fret of the top string, and one more down strum. Alright, now let's try that together. Measure 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, now let's try measures 1 to 4 together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3. All right, now let's move on to measures 5 to 8. For this part, measures 5 to 7 uses the same strumming pattern, while measure 8 has a slight variation. Here's how measure 5 should sound. All right, so we start with a down strum of the A chord. Then use your thumb to pluck the top string, but in the motion of a down strum like this. Now this is what we call a ghost note strum. We do have a short standalone lesson that teaches this technique in more detail, the ghost note strum, and do check it out in the description box below. Moving forward, do an upward strum of the A chord, then another ghost note, down strum, only hitting the top note, another upward strum, another down strum, and then a down, up, down. All right, now let's try measure 5 together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, now let's move on to measure 6. All you have to do is play this same strumming pattern over the G chord. So this is how it should sound like. Now let's try that together over the G chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, now let's try measures 5 and 6 together, starting from the A chord to the G chord. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, moving on to measure 7. It also uses the same strumming pattern, but over the D chord. Let's try that together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Moving on to measure 8. The first half is the same pattern, but the second half is slightly different since it adds the melody onto the strumming pattern. This is how it sounds. Now looking at the second half of measure 8, while holding the A chord, simply add your ring finger to the second fret of the C string and do a down strum. Then lift that finger to go back to the A chord and play a down up strum. And finally add your pinky to the 4th fret of the top string with one more down strum. All right, now let's try the entire measure 8 together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, now let's try measures 7 and 8 together. Ready? So from the D chord and into the A chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, now let's try measures 5 to 8 together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, now moving on to measures 9 to 12. They are actually identical to measures 5 to 8, so we can skip this entire section. Now let's try a full play along of the whole section, meaning measures 1 all the way to measure 12. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, now let's move on to section B. Now this section is 16 bars in length, and the first half of every measure uses the same strumming pattern as the last section. So I'll focus on teaching the second half of each measure instead. Here's how measure 13 sounds like. Alright, so starting at the second half of measure 13, do a down strum of the A chord. Then while still holding the A chord, ring finger to the second fret of the E string. Then pluck the top string at the second fret and pluck the open A string. Alright, now let's try measure 13 together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, now let's move on to measure 14. This is how it sounds. Alright, so we start with a down strum on the G chord, but remove your middle finger from the bottom string. Then pluck the E string at the third fret, pluck the open top string, and lift your ring finger to pluck the open E string. Alright, now let's try measure 14 together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, now let's try measures 13 and 14 together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, moving on to measure 15. This is how it should sound. Alright, so we start with a down strum on the D chord, but we do a quick hammer on to the third fret on the E string with your pinky, like this. Then lift your pinky to pluck the second fret at the E string. Then pluck the top string at the second fret. And pluck the C string at the second fret. Alright, now let's try measure 15 together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, now moving on to measure 16. It is identical to measure 8, so we can skip that. Alright, now let's try measures 13 to 16 together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, and the rest of the section, measures 17 to 28, is a repeat of the 4 bars that we just learned. In other words, we'll be playing measures 13 to 16 4 times. Alright, now let's try bars 17 to 28 all together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
To finish up the rhythm part, you're going to go back to the beginning of the song and play measures 1 through 12 before jumping to the coda, which is measures 29 through 32, which are identical to measures 5 through 8. And over these measures, you're just going to gradually fade out and play a little bit softer.
All right, now let's move on to the lead part. Starting at measures 1 to 4, we only start playing in the second half of measure 4. But do count the rests in the measures leading up to it. This is how measure 4 sounds. All right, so for measure 4, we start with your index finger on the first fret of the C string, pluck and slide into the second fret, go back into the first fret, and to the fourth fret of the top string with your ring finger. Now let's try that together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. All right, now let's count from measure 1 all the way to measure 4 to play the melody. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Measure 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. All right, moving on to measures 5 to 8. This is how it sounds like. All right, so we start with the open E string. Pluck it again. Middle finger to the second fret of the E string. Then pluck the open A string. Moving on to measure 6. Index to the third fret of the E string. Pluck again and hammer onto the 5th fret with your ring. Go back to the 3rd fret with your index. Middle to the 4th fret of the C string. Moving on to measure 7, index to the 2nd fret of the E string. Pluck again and hammer onto the 3rd fret with your middle. Then go back to the 2nd fret with your index. And lift your fingers to play the open E string. Moving on to measure 8, pluck the open E string again. Then index to the 1st fret of the C string. Pluck and slide to the 2nd fret with your index. Then go back to the 1st fret with your index and ring finger to the 4th fret. All right, now let's try measures 5 to 8 together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3. All right, now let's move on to measures 9 to 12. They are basically identical to measures 5 to 8 except for one slight change in the second half of measure 10. This is how measure 10 sounds. So we start with your index at the 3rd fret of the E string. Pluck and hammer on to the 5th fret with your ring. Index to the 2nd fret of the bottom string. And pinky to the 5th fret of the bottom string. All right, that's the only change. So now let's try measures 9 to 12 together with that change. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. All right, now let's play the entire melody section together from measures 1 to 12. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4, 2, 3. All right, congratulations on finishing the part 1 lesson. I'll see you guys in the second part. See ya.
All right, guys, so big congrats on learning all of the rhythm plus the melody part that the lead ukulele plays. In the part 2 lesson, Evan's going to be teaching that beautiful solo, which again, it leans more towards embellishing the harmony than being something that kind of is show off and lick based. So it's a very, very pretty sounding lead and one that is quite different than your typical solo. So if you want to learn how to play that, he's going to be teaching it in the part 2 lesson. So you can click this link right here, or you can head to the site, rockclass101.com, do a search for the song's name. Now also on that page were the tabs that you can print off to keep for your records, plus that really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer so you can hit play, watch the tab scroll across in real time, highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. And last but not least, backing tracks. We are uploading a backing track for the rhythm and the lead part, so it doesn't matter which one you learn to play, you'll have a backing track to rock out with the band at home. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed learning this tune, and we'll catch you in the part 2 lesson. Take care.